usually airport. So how long the battery lasts? Anyway, so I actually purchased this one. The $3.50, something like that, from the AliExpress. It's a Chinese thing. Then it's a little bit bigger than the AirPod, and also it lasted 1 hour, less than 1.5 hours. But it's okay for I usually take a walk in early morning if I do not have class in the morning. So then they'll come to the campus at the time, usually 1 hour walk, so it's okay. But after that, otherwise it's fine. Really cheap. But my kids, they really hate such a thing. Okay, so 11. So today we are going to, I want to introduce the concept of database programming, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, then followed by the DBS, the exercise lab. Before we start, as I email you, those who are interested in the AWS certificate based on the, your exercise lab, and as well as the study based on the several weeks before the Friday, the extra the training. So, however, so for studying purpose, the reading a document is more important. So I encourage you guys to take the certificate. This is one of the hardest the certificate for your job searching. So right now I have the 2 vouchers. One is the practice exam for ACF Cloud Foundation. Then if you take the practice exam, then I will give the 50% discount the ACF certificate, which costs it's actually the $100, but there's a 50. I'm not sure whether the online exam is available. So there might be, but I didn't. So nearest one is the Sheraton, the Pearson location. I think that you already took some of you guys use this computer-based exam for TOEFL or some other exam certificate. So let me know if you are interested in this one. Okay, so let's start the database programming. So far we learned about the SQL. However, main purpose of the SQL is to manage very large data. So when we have the data or database, so in our program language, so like let's say the Java. So Java starts with the import and a bunch of import and the class, the main, and so we add such a thing. But without database, we still can keep and manage the data, right? So sometimes we can use the variable, integer, or we can the string, like that. Or we can use the array or list and so on. Also, if needed, we can use the extra file. So you can open using the file stream, the class. So you can use the extra file in the operating system. This is the conventional way, traditional way to manage the data. However, so when we have the very large data, also if there are a lot of constraints, it's not easy to manage such a data in our program language. So because of that, we have learned how to organize such a very large and the data, well-organized data using the relational database model. To access the relational database model, it's the only way. So sometimes we confuse, there are a bunch of different ways to access the database, but only way to access the data is through the SQL. Any other way? So far we didn't learn any other way. Okay, SQL is the part of modeling of the database, relational database. So SQL is the only way. So that's the problem. So if we use the SQL as a part of our programming, so we definitely use the Java plus SQL. So from now on, we are going to call this language as a host program language. So host program language plus SQL. What about the SQL only? So we have used the SQL using SQL prompt, SQL interpreter. So log on MySQL, then select the data. We can select the data. It's not very flexible in terms of programming language. Like can we do the, for example, graphical user interface? No, we cannot do that. What about the conditional statement, like the for loop? Can we use such a for loop for each student, do the different thing? Or can we do the if then else, even though we learn the case or the decode is very limited. Also mostly, the SQL is structured language. The meaning is structured, relational structured data. So SQL is only for that. It's not the general programming purpose. So we cannot use the SQL only. Definitely we need to get the help of host program language. So this host program language can be anything. So if you like the Python, you can use the Python. If you like the C, C++, the C#, so any program language can be a host program language, but we are going to combine with the SQL. Main problem, this one and this one is totally different. Different from what? Data structure. So their data structure, the organization are totally different. It's like the water and the oil. It cannot mix, never ever. So that is the main problem. So definitely we need to use both of them. This is called the database, the programming. So there are three different ways of combining the host program language and SQL. First one is embedded. The second is the library. And third one is using procedural language. So this is slightly different, but I'm going to quickly introduce. First, embedded programming means we are going to embed the SQL language as a part of host language. The purpose of using SQL is to access the data. So think about your host language. So whenever you need to access the data on your memory or the file, you can open the file and read and use it. Similarly, so when you need such a data, so we can plug in the SQL part into the host program language. Okay, so for example, it's like if you have the main, the C program, so instead of the open the file, so a.txt file, the read write permission, instead of this one, we can put the select the from where. Then use this output as the data. Okay? So this is a plugin embedded. So from time to time we have such a embedded part. So embedded part. So we need to differentiate such an embedded part from the host program language, that is EXEC SQL begin and EXEC SQL end. So this is called the SQL block. So we can create the SQL block as a part of a host program language. Okay. For example, C uses such the embedded. C++ use. And Fortran and COBOL. Have you ever heard about such a program language? Looks like old-fashioned. It's the first approach. Okay? So still a lot of the program language use embedded SQL. Problem is, if you compile this with the Java, what happens? Or if you compile, if this is a C program, you can compile with the GCC. What happened?
That part won't be compiled.
Error. Bunch of error, because it's not part of the host program language. So, in case of embedded SQL, you need to pre-compile. So pre-compile means we are going to compile this part into the host program language. Okay? It's kind of conversion. So, who provides such a pre-compiler? Host program language or the DBMS? Who is in charge of DBMS? Is in charge of that. So, when you are using embedded SQL for the specific language, you need to check the MySQL website. What is the pre-compiler for the program language? If they do not support the C, you cannot actually use the embedded SQL. If they do not provide the compiler for the C++, you cannot do that. Okay? You need to check the pre-compiler. Then, after pre-compiler, so like for example, the A dot, usually we call the PC, but it doesn't matter. So pre-compiler first, then it will be you can use the host compiler like the A.C. In case of Fortran, so you can use different one. This is old-fashioned, but still being used. Okay? So because of that, I use the pre-compiler and the embedded SQL in our class a lot. But nowadays, it's changing. So next approach is a library. It's a really tedious job. Pre-compile and compile. Pre-compile and compile. Sometimes this doesn't work depending on the version, and if the host program language version is changing, they should follow. But it's not such a fast. Okay? A lot of error and so on. So why not? Instead of pre-embedded, so actually database activity is like for example connect. Okay? Then fetch. Fetch means the collector, retrieve the data. And close, or the insert, delete. So there are few. It's not huge, enormous number of activity, right? So why don't we create the library for only connection using host program language? Why don't we create the select, the library, to retrieve the data with the host program language? Okay? So, for example, JDBC is the typical example. Java database connectivity. You heard about this one. So, with the Java, if you want to use the relational database, Java is open source community. Right now it belongs to the Oracle, but it was the open source community. The motto, slogan of the Java is what? Compile once, run everywhere under the Java virtual machine. Like that. So they don't want such a complicated programming. Why not? We create the database connectivity library, like this one. It's called the JDBC. Then, if you download the existing, so for example, Oracle classes, something that G file or jar file. This is the library. So if you have such a library and import, then you don't have to use the SQL. Instead, you can use the database library, especially the Java. They don't want a special case. They try to standardize. So, because the benefit of using the relational database is the standardized. SQL 2, SQL 3, SQL 2000. So any database like the MySQL, Oracle, any database, as long as they follow the standard, this library is the same. Okay? You don't have to use the different. So, who provides such a library? Database or this community program language? This one support. This is common. However, each DBMS vendor supports their own library also. So you can use either of them. If you are using this is more common. If you are using the common library, it can work the MySQL, it can work any relational database. However, if you are using the Oracle specific library, it works for the only Oracle database. So you can download the library. JDBC is one of the examples, but nowadays many other programs like the Python, per such a program language use the such a library base. Then even though you do not know the SQL, sometimes you may not realize whether I'm accessing the database or not. It's just import, then the connection is the JDBC, the host name, the port number. That's it. Then you can retrieve the data, but inside there are the SQL will be used. Then last one is the procedural language. Without using the host program language, why not adding the more procedural part to the SQL? So like the if, then, else, or for loop, not graphical user interface, more procedural, the programming part to the SQL. So also, whenever compile this database programming, it's running on based on operating system. In other words, if you run the program, it will be process. Process means using the memory on your operating system like that. This one, if you create the procedure within the SQL, the database will be, it's a memory. And the database, this is a memory, and this is the database. The memory used for the database, okay? Then this one will run on the database kernel inside. Okay? It's managed by the database. So because of that, sometimes database is kind of in between operating system and application program. Okay, so this one, each DBMS has different syntax, which means it's not standardized. For example, Oracle use PL SQL, Procedural Language SQL, and Informix is a PSN, Procedural, I forgot the acronym, and each DBMS has the different name. I cannot remember all of this. So it doesn't make sense to study each and everything. When you need, if we need some of the project use, the others not. You can do the same thing for the database programming part. But we will introduce some part of MySQL, procedural language. Mostly function, procedure, and the trigger. Okay? So function is input and output. Procedure is a procedure, no output. And the trigger we discuss about. So mostly this one. So three main parts. Then one more thing. Last thing is there are types of the database, the programming. So first one is the static. Static means I have the select, the count. So from the employee, where DNO is equal to 1. When you run this SQL embedded or the library, you can get the output of this 10. You can use this 10 as a variable of a host language. You can display. This is a static. The problem, what if this one is changed? Also, what if the condition is changed, dname? You need to revise your code, compile again. So static, the database program language is easy. You can just plug in or use the library, but it's not flexible. So mostly the database programming is dynamic programming. So dynamic programming means, so for example, in your input, so I'd like to retrieve the user, search the user or customer. Name, you can give. And the ID, you can give. The department, you can give. Sometimes you then search. So I do not know whatever, but department is the HR. Based on the input of your data, you can actually make the dynamic SQL. Dynamic SQL means it can be assembled. So check. if there is also, for example, select the count, select asterisk from the customer. In your host program language, if there is name, add name and this one. If not, do not add. Okay? And the idea is, if there is the input of the department, then department name is equal to HR. So you can assemble SQL as a SQL, for example, string. Then run the SQL string every time. So this is called the dynamic SQL. Dynamic SQL is more popular. One last thing. One main difference, I said that this one and this one is different. In terms of data structure, main difference is, what is the definition of the relational database, relation table? It's a group of data, right? We consider data as a group. However, all host program languages, they do not consider data as a group. Think about why do we have the array? Why do we have the list? Why do we have the dictionary? Because data is not the group. It's mostly accessed by what? Memory address. You need to know the address of the data. It's an individual data structure. But by combining that, because it's tedious, if I have millions of data, then create a list or array. Array is the array of memory structure. So what they are dealing with, the data is different. Okay? It's a group of data, but this is a reference address. So to address that, whenever you access the data through the database, the language, you need to select. Select means group of data. You will get the group of data. Then you need to get one by one. This is called the fetch. So you need to do the fetch. So Java uses, for example, result set. So result set is kind of mimicking group of data. Then you can get next, next, next until the end of the set. Right? So it doesn't look like the different if you have very high level, but at least you guys know why we are struggling database problem, because deal with the data address by address. This one is a group of data. We don't use the address of the internal structure. Instead, conceptual schema structure that rely on internal structure. Okay, as a group. So you will see such an example, like when you return the data and how to display. Okay, so this is the summary of the really quick summary. So database. But good news is, more and more is the higher level. Higher level means abstraction. So you don't have to too much worry about the inside. However, so if this class is for non-computer science, I don't explain this one. Really confused. I need to know what is the library name and so on, right? But what if there is a performance issue? So how can you address? Because our main problem is not designing. Our main problem is always performance. That's the reason why we are using the computer to access the data, to deal with the data fast. So without understanding, you can turn on. Yeah. Without the understanding this one, if you have nowadays one of my friends, he works for the database administrator as well as the developer. So in the oil company, so he deals with the drill. So drill has a lot of sensor data and send out to the server. He is using the software that includes such a lot of library. But if there's any problem to access the database, he needs to check which library. Then next library. Sometimes 7-8 times. The call another library. Then even name is weird. So very hard to figure out. Okay? So that is the overall thing database. So, but we are using the AWS, the MySQL. So based on that, This time GCP.
GCP.
Yeah, GCP. So it's based on the web application because nowadays the most popular the system, and also your project use a lot except your team. So web application. So we will see how we can use. So this one is a JDBC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be giving you, I'll be giving you how to use MySQL on GCP with Java, and also you can use it with C# in Visual Studio, and also using Django with Python. So we will be looking into each of them. The steps are also available in the exercise lab to page 87. So when you can refer to that. So to use JDBC, we will be using Eclipse. So you have to first download Eclipse. So this is the Eclipse environment. So and also you should be downloading the file. Like there is a link over here to download the JDBC driver. So you can go to this link and download it. So you can download this and extract it, and I'll tell you how we are using it in Java. So you will be creating a new Java project. And here you can remove the use default location, and here you will be browsing the file that you have, like the extracted file. So we can also add this later. So as of now I'm creating it like this. You click on finish, and then you will be adding jar files here. So this is the jar file that has been extracted. And now there is code over here in the PDF that is given. So what are we doing actually? We have downloaded drivers and we have added to the library. So now we will be connecting to the MySQL in the GCP using the code. We will code in the file and we will connect. So for connecting, we will be, here what we are doing, we are giving the path of the JDBC driver, which it says here, like it will check for the JDBC driver path, and then this is the exception, which it will give if the driver path is not available. So here, a connection is the path, like the connection that we are creating to the MySQL instance. And statement is the MySQL statement, like it will initiate a statement using which where the MySQL statement is stored. And the result set is the output that will be given. So if you go here, what we have to do in the connection, we will have to give the instance of our MySQL. So before before connecting, you should make sure your instance is on and your connections are your IP address is there in the connections. So you will be giving this instance name, the public IP address of the instance, and the database name. This is a database that I have already created. So what we are doing, we are already we did in the previous exercise lab. We will connect to the instance from our local machine, and we will be creating a database and then a table. Like I have created an employee table, so I am accessing that table from from my Java. So here this is the database name that I have, my database name, the root and the password. And here is the query for what I want to retrieve from the database. So this is the query. So what this will do, it will get the connection details and create a statement so that you can connect up to the MySQL instance, and then it will execute this statement, the select query. So in case your connection is not established, then you will get this error message. Otherwise, you will get this message like you made it take control of your database. So after doing this, you will run the when you run the Java file, you can see here is the output is being processed.
So this is not only for the database programming. If you are taking or took the operating system class, when computer use any kind of resource include everything, even network and other. So always open, use, close. Okay, this is the same thing. So no other way. So you need to, unless you open the resource, you cannot use. For example, the network, you need to establish the connection. Then send or receive, use that resource and close. So JDBC follow the same thing. Always connect and use. Use means retrieve or the create whatever, then close.
So there is another way as well, like we have used Eclipse. There are steps to use NetBeans as well. You can see the code as well. The code is also here. You connect using the same way, like the instance ID, the port number, the database, and your password to the instance. This is the password that we have used while creating the instance.
Question: if you run this one, exactly the same program to the MySQL in the AWS, what happens? Anything different? It's exactly the same. Okay. The only difference is IP address. Okay. So you can just change the IP address and it will be same. That's the reason we download the JDBC, get the JDBC from the host, the program language part. Okay. And also even Java is common. So it's the standard ours. So we can connect the AWS without changing anything except the IP. And port number. Port number may be different, but the default probably same.
So using Visual Studio, there are steps how to create a database and other things. We will just see how we are connecting to the MySQL instance. It is similar to the way the way we connect to the way we connect in Java. It is almost similar. So this is how you connect. You give your connection name and then the connection string, where you will give the server, the IP address. UID is the root. Like here we are using root, and the password is the password that you have used to set up the MySQL instance. It is similar, and you can find the sample code here, which has been used in connecting to the data. So you can use this as well. It is also it helps. You have steps to create the database, getting the labels and other stuff. All the steps are there in the PDF, so you can follow that. Going further, we will be looking into how to use Python. Django with Python. So for this, you have to download Django, It is present in this link. You can download Python with, you can download the Python and then you will have to run this query to install Django. So before this you might have to also install the pip and Python client, MySQL client. So once you are done, you will be using I'll be showing you. We will be going into command prompt, and in directly wherever we want to create our project, we will be first creating a project. The Django admin start project is the command that is used to create a project. So what this command is actually doing, if you go to this folder and see, there will be a there will be a project that has been created. So this is the project that has been created here. So these are the files that are automatically generated when you create the project. So now we are also creating an application for that. So to create an application, you will use this command, python manage.py start app. I came into this directory and you can see this is the application that is created. So if you go inside the project that we created, we have this files, this Python files here, the settings, URLs, WSGI initiating file. So in the application you can see the other files that have been created. So now what we will be doing, we will be modifying these files so that we can access the MySQL database.
To understand the Django project, so anyone who probably you learned MVC model. MVC, what is MVC?
Model view and
Model, view,
and
control. So it's a separate. Okay. So without understanding the MVC, not easy to understand such a Django project. So you can model database. Data is a model. And view is the front-end part, HTML and CSS. And the control, then you can control the whether it's the post or get or the such a control. So it's a separate. So it's a for easy development. So without understanding MVC, not easy to why there is a separated like that. You don't have to use a PyCharm,
Yeah,
so
so
it's
just,
a ID. So if you want to
you can use the text editor. I just
Yeah.
wanted to show you we have in Python we have to follow integration, so that's the reason I just wanted to use Python. You can do it using the text editor as well. So you can generally use it like this. here we are making a few changes here. So we are using our application as well. Like we created an application in this project. So we are going to add that application under installed application. So the name should be the same. So I have added the application name. So here when I go to the databases, here there is a default thing, but I am using MySQL database. So I will be adding the details here. Like my database is I am using MySQL. So in the engine it should be backends.mysql. The name is the database name. The user which user it is, the root user, the password, and this is the IP address of our GCP instance. The same IP address that we have been using, we will be giving this IP address here. The IP address and the port number. So this thing we are giving these details in the database details. So using this our application would be connecting to the database. So once the database details are done, I am going to save this file. So now how are we going to use our application? So if you go to application, here we are creating models. So what are we actually doing in models? For, we are creating a class which can be like, you can name it in your own way. So this is a class in which we are creating models such that you will have some the column names which will be accessing the columns from the database, the MySQL database. So here I took my column name as user ID, which is an integer field. This is a primary, I specified that it's a primary key, and this DB column refers to the column name in the database. This should be exactly the same name from the database. Like in the database, however you created the case sensitive, this should be the same name, so that this will fetch the details from the database and will assign it to the user ID. So in the same way, I am selecting the name, which is the first name. So in class meta, we are selecting the table, which table you want to access from that database. I am accessing the employee table. So this is a model that you have created. So how are we going to use this model, that I will be showing you now. So now in to use this model, we will be creating a view. If you go to this directly, you can see the Python file called views. So in this views, we will be adding our view. We are creating a view. What does this view do? It will get, it imports this model. Like it is using the model that we created earlier, in which we have a function called test_MySQL. What does this function do? It will first, you can see that it is getting all the objects from the from the model we created. It is getting all the objects. You can see .objects.all. So it will get all the objects and it will assign user. We have given it as like 0. So it will get the first value, like the first user ID, and it will assign it to the user ID. And what does the second thing, username, it will get the second username and it will assign it to the username. So, and and when you run this one, when you call this function, it will render this values into an HTML file. So we are naming that file as index.html. So it will fetch that values and it will give it to an HTML file. So you can view the output in an HTML file. And where are we calling this view? If you go our project, in our project we will be calling this view, like from our project. If you go to URLs, here you will be writing the code so that you can call the view. So what are we doing here? We are importing views from the application. So this should be the application name. From my first application, I am importing views and I am assigning it to URL. What is this going to do? This is going to render the output of views.testmysql. This function's output is rendered to this file. So when you are, when you get an URL, if you can give, if you give like /index/, then it will be displaying the output of this view. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a template, like we are going to create a HTML page so that it can get the details from the HTML page and will be giving the output in that format. So for that, we already have code given here, sample code. So what is this code going to do? It will give, it will display the user ID here and it will display the username here in the HTML page. So I have, this template, we will be saving this to the main directory. This is our project, right? In our project, we will be saving it. So now how will the system know that it should take, it should be using this template? So for that, we will have to go to the settings. If you go to the settings file, you can see there is this tab called templates. In templates, it is asking which directory it is. So here we will be adding, we will be asking the system to get its directory from the root directory, base directory templates file. So I'll be giving this path which specifies that it is asking us to get the files from the base directory, and the file, the folder name is templates. So after going to templates, it will use the index.html file over there. So in case you, how many other HTML pages you want to use, you can store it in the templates. you're done, I'm just checking if I have given everything correctly. Once I have made all the changes, I have specified the templates. I will be running this query. Like, I will run the managed.python file. So when you give this query, it will run the server and it will be displaying you an URL using which you can view the output. You can see that it has retrieved the details, the user ID and the username from the database.
For Wednesday, the exam, the 65% is open-ended question, and 15 multiple choices. So each of them is worthwhile 3.45. Then the open-ended is 55. Okay. Then the open-ended question is exactly same as question as your handout, but different database selected from your homework. Okay. Then I'm going to ask a couple of the MySQL specific question, the command whether to verify whether you tested the MySQL or not. It will be very simple. So if you complete the exercise right, you can easily answer, but not the database programming part. Database programming will be part of final exam. So any questions? So please come to earlier. So if you come to earlier, I can give the exam sheet earlier. So I think that you need a little bit longer time. So but after exam and 12:15, I'm not sure whether we have time to continue. So please come to earlier, like the 10 minutes. As soon as you come, I can hand out the exam sheet. You guys can start. Okay, and we don't need video taping the Wednesday.
Okay.
All right.
So this will be fetching. You can, like, if you want to add further, like if you want to add more columns, then you will be adding it into the file called model, because that is where we have added like you will add it in models and then implement it in views as well. Like here you can add any number of columns that you want to retrieve, and you can even in views you can see that we have specified only like one record that we want. You can even let it in an iteration form, like using Python you can even generate it so that like many numbers can be generated and do. So this is how you have to connect using Python. So there are further steps to load it into GCP, which you can like connecting to Python from this part is more important. Like I am firstly looking into this part, like you should be able to access the database from a URL from your like normal thing. Then you can work on loading into GCP, because it just like it has only 3 queries. For loading it into GCP, you will have to download the cloud platform, like the command prompt for cloud is here. You have the URL here in the document. So once it is downloaded, it will ask you for authorization of your account. Those details can be found online, like it's just like Gcloud auth login and all. You can find them. So I will be sending you an email with the link. So at first I'm looking into this part. So if you can submit this, it is better. That the other thing you can take some time and do. So you can connect it. This you will be using this to specify the project name. And deploy the application. So once it is deployed, it will also give you a link using which you can access it. So this is how you have to do for even for the phase 3 that you have to submit. You will be have to submit. You have to submit using any one of these, whatever you choose to, like whatever in whichever using whichever web server you want to. One of you are not using any web servers, right? Yeah. So, but still you have to. If you're not using web server, you can email it to me because I just want to know how much. How you are going to. In case you have to use web server, you should know, right? So I just want to know that you understood something. So you can use any. It's not like you should use 3 of them. You can use any one of them. You can use Java, or you can use C# Visual Studio, or you can use Python Django. So using that you have to submit. For phase 3 is the thing like creating a MySQL database in GCP, and this one like the creating MySQL database in GCP means like you should be having at least one table in GCP related to your project. So that you can get, you can only get the output when there is a table in that, right? So if you don't create a table, you can't view any output. So that's the reason you create a table and table that is related to your project. So that's what you have to submit.
So we don't have to create all the tables?
No, the creation of all the tables, the coding part is in the next phase. So you will be submitting the coding in the next phase, the SQL queries, like creation, altering, deleting, dropping the tables, insertion, everything others comes into the next phase. So you will be submitting it then. So I don't want it now. I am good with one table so that I should know that your whatever program you did is good. That's it. And we have an in-class assignment to be submitted, so you can submit it here. The relational schema and SQL query.